The drive to Thornfield Manor felt endless, despite taking only an hour through the winding countryside roads of Hertfordshire. Kate sat in the passenger seat of an unmarked vehicle, her hands gripping the door handle so tightly that her knuckles had turned white. Harrison drove in focused silence, occasionally glancing at Kate with concern as they approached their destination. As they turned through the imposing iron gates of Thornfield Manor, Kate's first impression was of a fortress rather than a school. The Gothic stone building loomed against the gray afternoon sky, surrounded by high walls topped with decorative ironwork that looked more like security barriers than ornamental features. The windows were small and set high in the walls, and Kate noticed that many of them had bars that were cleverly disguised as architectural elements. A woman was waiting for them at the main entrance as their car pulled up the circular drive. Dr. Victoria Ashworth was exactly what Kate had expected, tall, severe-looking, with steel-gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, and wearing a crisp navy blue suit that suggested military precision. Her smile was professional but cold, and her eyes held the calculating look of someone who was accustomed to managing difficult situations. "Your Royal Highness," Dr. Ashworth said with a perfectly executed curtsy as Kate stepped out of the car. "I'm Dr. Ashworth. Welcome to Thornfield Manor. I trust your journey was comfortable." Kate forced herself to maintain her composure. "Thank you, Dr. Ashworth. I appreciate you accommodating this visit on short notice. I'm very anxious to see how Charlotte is adjusting to your program." "Of course. Please, let's go inside where we can speak more privately." Dr. Ashworth led them through the entrance hall, which was decorated with oil paintings of stern-looking Victorian figures and furnished with heavy wooden furniture that emphasized the building's institutional atmosphere. Kate noticed that there were no sounds of children playing or laughing. The silence was almost oppressive. They were shown into Dr. Ashworth's office, a room that felt more like an interrogation chamber than a place where child welfare was discussed. The walls were lined with psychology textbooks and certificates and Dr. Ashworth's desk was positioned so that visitors would be forced to look up at her slightly, a subtle power dynamic that Kate recognized immediately. "Please, have a seat," Dr. Ashworth said, gesturing to chairs positioned directly across from her desk. "I'd like to discuss Princess Charlotte's progress before you see her." Kate remained standing. "I'd prefer to see my daughter first, if you don't mind. We can discuss her progress afterward." Dr. Ashworth's smile became even more rigid. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Your Royal Highness. Our protocols require that family members be briefed on a child's current status before visitation occurs. This ensures that the interaction is productive and doesn't disrupt the therapeutic process." "Dr. Ashworth," Kate said, her voice taking on a steely edge, "Charlotte is my daughter, not your patient. I don't need to be briefed on my own child's status." "With respect, Your Royal Highness, Princess Charlotte was placed in our care specifically because the family felt that previous approaches to managing her behavioral issues had been unsuccessful. The Queen Consort was very clear about the need for professional intervention." Kate felt her anger rising but forced herself to remain calm. "What behavioral issues are you referring to exactly?" Dr. Ashworth consulted a thick file on her desk. "According to the intake evaluation conducted by the Queen Consort, Princess Charlotte has shown persistent patterns of defiance toward authority figures, inappropriate questioning of established protocols, and resistance to traditional educational approaches." Kate stared at Dr. Ashworth in disbelief. "You're describing a normal, intelligent 8-year-old child who asks questions and thinks for herself." "Your Royal Highness, I understand that this process is difficult for family members, particularly those who may have inadvertently contributed to the problematic behaviors. However, Princess Charlotte's patterns of defiance could become serious issues if not addressed immediately." "Contributed to the problematic behaviors?" Kate's voice was dangerously quiet. "Are you suggesting that I'm responsible for my daughter's supposed behavioral problems?" Dr. Ashworth maintained her professional demeanor, but Kate could see a hint of satisfaction in her eyes. "The Queen Consort indicated that Princess Charlotte has been encouraged to question authority and challenge established traditions. While such approaches might seem progressive, they can create significant adjustment difficulties for children who must learn to function within hierarchical structures." Kate had heard enough. "Dr. Ashworth, I want to see my daughter right now." I don't care about your protocols or your theories about child behavior. Take me to Charlotte immediately. I'm afraid I cannot comply with that request at this time, Your Royal Highness. Princess Charlotte is currently in a restricted communication phase of her treatment. Unscheduled emotional interactions could set back her progress significantly. Harrison, who had been standing silently near the door, stepped forward. Dr. Ashworth, Princess Catherine is not requesting an unscheduled interaction. She's demanding to see her own child, which is her legal right as the child's parent. Dr. Ashworth's expression became noticeably cooler. Sergeant, I appreciate your concern, but you may not be aware of the specific legal arrangements that govern Princess Charlotte's placement here. The Queen Consort has provided us with documentation that gives this facility temporary custody authority over the child. Kate felt the blood drain from her face. What documentation? Legal papers signed by the Queen Consort in her capacity as a senior member of the royal family, granting Thornfield Manor educational and disciplinary authority over Princess Charlotte for a period of 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Kate's voice cracked slightly. The Queen Consort has no legal authority to sign documents giving anyone custody of my children. Dr. Ashworth pulled several official-looking papers from Charlotte's file. I'm afraid the documentation indicates otherwise, Your Royal Highness. According to these papers, the Queen Consort has been granted temporary guardianship authority in situations where immediate intervention is required for a child's welfare. Kate snatched the papers from Dr. Ashworth's hands and scanned them quickly. The documents were professionally prepared and bore official-looking seals, but Kate could immediately see that they were essentially worthless from a legal standpoint. These documents are fraudulent, Kate said firmly. The Queen Consort has no legal authority to grant custody of my children to anyone, under any circumstances. Only my husband, and I have that authority. Dr. Ashworth's composure slipped slightly. Your Royal Highness, I was assured by the Queen Consort that these documents were legally binding. Well, you were misinformed. And if you continue to hold my daughter against her will based on fraudulent documentation, you will be guilty of kidnapping. Now see here, Dr. Ashworth said, standing up behind her desk. I will not be accused of criminal behavior. This facility operates according to the highest professional standards, and we have followed all proper procedures. Harrison moved closer to Kate, sensing that the situation was about to escalate. Dr. Ashworth, regardless of whatever documentation you may have received, Princess Catherine has the absolute right to see her daughter. If you continue to prevent this visit, we'll have no choice but to contact the authorities. The authorities? Dr. Ashworth laughed coldly. Sergeant, you seem to be forgetting that this family is the authorities. The Queen Consort made it very clear that any attempts to interfere with Princess Charlotte's treatment program would be dealt with severely. Kate had reached her breaking point. I don't care what threats Camilla made. I'm done with this conversation. Either you take me to my daughter right now, or I'm calling the police and having this entire facility searched. Dr. Ashworth stared at Kate for a long moment, clearly trying to assess how serious the threat was. Finally, she pressed a button on her desk phone. Mrs. Reynolds, please bring Princess Charlotte to conference room B immediately. Kate felt a wave of relief wash over her, followed immediately by renewed anxiety about what condition she would find Charlotte in. The wait seemed to last forever, but finally, there was a knock at the office door. Come in, Dr. Ashworth called. The door opened, and a stern-looking woman in her 50s entered, followed by Charlotte. Kate's heart broke at the sight of her daughter. Charlotte was wearing a plain gray dress that Kate had never seen before, and her usually bright and energetic demeanor was replaced by a subdued, almost defeated posture. Her eyes were red-rimmed as if she had been crying, and she seemed smaller and more fragile than she had just 4 days earlier. Charlotte, Kate exclaimed, moving toward her daughter. But Charlotte didn't run to her mother as Kate expected. Instead, she looked uncertainly between Kate and Dr. Ashworth, as if seeking permission to react. Hello, Mother, Charlotte said quietly, her voice lacking its usual warmth and energy. Kate knelt down to Charlotte's level, trying to make eye contact with her daughter. Charlotte, sweetheart, are you all right? I've been so worried about you. Charlotte glanced at Dr. Ashworth before answering. I'm fine, Mother. I'm learning important lessons about proper behavior. The words sounded rehearsed, and Kate could see the fear in Charlotte's eyes. Charlotte, I want you to know that I never agreed to send you here. This was not my decision. The Queen Consort explained that you thought it would be best for me to come here to learn better manners, Charlotte said, again looking toward Dr. Ashworth as if checking that she was saying the right things. Kate felt her rage building again, but she forced herself to focus on Charlotte. Sweetheart, that's not true. I would never send you away from home unless it was absolutely necessary for your safety. And asking questions and thinking for yourself is not bad behavior. It's exactly what smart children should do. Dr. Ashworth stepped forward. Your Royal Highness, I must ask that you not contradict the educational messages that Princess Charlotte has been receiving. Conflicting information can be very confusing for children. Kate stood up and faced Dr. Ashworth directly. The only thing that's confusing my daughter is being told lies about why she's here and being separated from her family for no legitimate reason. I think this visit has gone on long enough, Dr. Ashworth said firmly. Princess Charlotte needs to return to her afternoon activities. No, Kate said, reaching for Charlotte's hand. She needs to come home with me right now. But Charlotte pulled back from her mother's touch, looking frightened. Mother, Dr. Ashworth says that if I don't complete my program here, I might cause serious problems for the royal family. I don't want to embarrass everyone. Kate's heart shattered at the fear and confusion in her daughter's voice. Charlotte, you could never embarrass our family. You make us proud every single day just by being yourself. Dr. Ashworth moved between Kate and Charlotte. Mrs. Reynolds, please escort Princess Charlotte back to her dormitory. This interaction is becoming counterproductive. Don't you dare take her away from me again, Kate said, her voice rising. Charlotte, you're coming home with me right now. But Charlotte looked terrified by the conflict happening around her. Mother, please don't be angry. I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to learn the lessons they're teaching me. Kate realized that Charlotte had been psychologically manipulated to believe that her normal behavior was wrong and that she was responsible for the family conflict. The sophisticated psychological pressure that had been applied to an 8-year-old child was nothing short of abuse. Charlotte, Kate said gently, kneeling down again, I need you to listen to me very carefully. You are not in trouble. You have done nothing wrong. The only thing you are guilty of is being a smart, curious, wonderful little girl. And those are exactly the qualities that make me proud to be your mother. For the first time since entering the room, Charlotte's eyes showed a spark of her old self. Really, Mother? I'm not a bad child. You are absolutely not a bad child. You are perfect exactly as you are. Dr. Ashworth stepped forward again. Your Royal Highness, I really must insist that this visit conclude now. Princess Charlotte has made significant progress in her adjustment, and this emotional disruption could undo weeks of work. Kate stood up and faced Dr. Ashworth with cold determination. There won't be any more weeks of work because my daughter is leaving with me today. I'm afraid that's not possible. As I explained, we have legal authority to retain Princess Charlotte for the duration of her treatment program. And, as I explained, your legal authority is based on fraudulent documents. Kate pulled out her phone. I'm calling my lawyer right now, and then I'm calling the police. By tonight, this facility will be under investigation for kidnapping and child abuse. Dr. Ashworth's professional mask finally slipped completely. Your Royal Highness, you are making a serious mistake. The Queen Consort will not be pleased with your interference in Princess Charlotte's treatment. I don't care what pleases the Queen Consort. I care about my daughter's welfare, and I will not allow her to be subjected to this psychological abuse for one more minute. Kate knelt down and took Charlotte's hands in hers. Charlotte, sweetheart, I want you to come home with me right now. You don't need to stay here anymore. Charlotte looked between her mother and Dr. Ashworth, clearly torn between her desire to go home and her fear of disappointing the adults who had been controlling her environment for the past 4 days. What about my lessons? Charlotte asked uncertainly. Dr. Ashworth says I haven't learned proper respect yet. Kate's heart ached for her daughter's confusion. The only lesson you need to learn is that your family loves you exactly as you are. Now let's go home. This time, when Kate extended her hand, Charlotte took it without hesitation. The spark of defiance and independence that Kate loved so much was beginning to return to her daughter's eyes. Mrs. Reynolds, Dr. Ashworth said sharply, please contact the Queen Consort immediately and inform her of this development. But Kate was already leading Charlotte toward the door, with Harrison close behind them. "You can call whoever you want, Dr. Ashworth. But my daughter is coming home where she belongs." As they walked through the corridors of Thornfield Manor toward the exit, Kate could hear Dr. Ashworth making urgent phone calls behind them. She knew that this confrontation with Camilla was far from over. But for now, all that mattered was getting Charlotte away from this place and back to safety. Outside in the car, Charlotte finally broke down and sobbed in her mother's arms while Kate held her tightly and whispered reassurances that she was safe and loved. Harrison drove them home in silence, understanding that the real battle was just beginning. The war between Kate and Camilla for the souls of the royal children had been declared, and Kate was determined to win at any cost. No one would ever again be allowed to use her children as pawns in palace politics or subject them to psychological manipulation in the name of royal protocol. As they approached Windsor Castle, Kate was already planning her next moves. Camilla had made the first strike, but Kate intended to make sure it was also her last. The morning fog rolled across the grounds of Windsor Castle as Catherine, Princess of Wales, walked quickly through the ancient corridors. Her footsteps echoed against the stone walls, each sound matching the rapid beating of her heart. She clutched a small photograph in her trembling hand, the edges worn from constant handling over the past 3 days. Princess Charlotte had been missing for 72 hours now, and the official reports were not telling the whole story. Kate knew something was terribly wrong when she received the call from Charlotte's private tutor, Miss Henderson, who had been frantically searching for the young princess after she failed to appear for her morning lessons. The investigation had been swift but secretive. The Metropolitan Police had questioned everyone in the household, from the senior staff to the newest kitchen assistant. Yet Kate felt as though she was being kept in the dark about crucial details. Every time she asked specific questions, she received vague answers about ongoing investigations and the need for patience. That morning, Kate had overheard a conversation between 2 palace guards that made her blood run cold. They were discussing something about the Queen Consort's specific instructions and making sure certain information doesn't reach the Princess of Wales. The fragments of conversation were enough to confirm her worst fears. Someone was deliberately hiding information about Charlotte's disappearance. Kate made her way to the East Wing, where she knew she would find Sergeant Michael Harrison, one of the most trusted guards in the Royal Protection Unit. Harrison had served the royal family for 15 years and had always been particularly kind to her children. If anyone would tell her the truth, it would be him. She found Harrison standing at his usual post near the Queen Consort's private offices. His face was grave, and she could see the stressed lines around his eyes that had deepened over the past few days. When he saw her approaching, his expression became even more troubled. "Sergeant Harrison," Kate began, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. "I need to speak with you privately. It's about Charlotte." Harrison glanced around nervously, checking to make sure they were alone in the corridor. "Your Royal Highness, I'm not sure this is the appropriate time or place for—" "Please," Kate interrupted, stepping closer to him. "I know you care about my children. I've seen how you watch over them, how you always make sure they're safe. Something happened to Charlotte, and I'm being kept in the dark about it." The guard's face softened slightly, and Kate could see the internal struggle playing out in his eyes. He had always been protective of the children, often going out of his way to ensure their security during public events and private family gatherings. "I've served this family faithfully for 15 years, Harrison said quietly. "I've never broken protocol, never spoken out of turn. But what's happening now, it's not right." Kate felt a surge of hope mixed with dread. "What do you know? Please, I'm begging you. She's my daughter." Harrison looked down the corridor again, then motioned for Kate to follow him into a small alcove where they could speak more privately. The space was cramped, filled with cleaning supplies and maintenance equipment, but it offered them the privacy they needed. 3 days ago, Princess Charlotte was playing in the garden with her security detail nearby, Harrison began, his voice barely above a whisper. She was picking flowers near the rose garden when the Queen Consort arrived unexpectedly. Her Majesty dismissed Charlotte's security team, saying she wanted to have a private conversation with the princess. Kate's heart began to race. What kind of conversation? According to the gardener who was working nearby, the queen consort seemed very agitated. She was speaking to Princess Charlotte in an urgent, almost harsh tone. The gardener couldn't hear everything, but he did hear the queen consort mention something about family loyalty and knowing one's place. The photograph in Kate's hand crumpled slightly as her grip tightened. What happened next? That's where the story gets strange, Your Royal Highness. The gardener said Princess Charlotte became very upset. She was crying and trying to run back toward the palace, but the queen consort caught her arm. Then, suddenly, a black car that wasn't part of the usual fleet arrived at the garden gate. Kate felt the world spinning around her. A black car? Who was in it? The gardener doesn't know, but he saw the queen consort escort Princess Charlotte to the vehicle. The driver was someone he didn't recognize, not one of our usual drivers. The queen consort had a brief conversation with whoever was in the car, and then Princess Charlotte was put into the vehicle. Put in. Kate's voice was sharp with panic. What do you mean, put in? Harrison's face was pale now. The gardener said it didn't look voluntary, Your Royal Highness. Princess Charlotte was still crying, and she appeared to be resisting. But the queen consort was very firm with her, and the next thing anyone knew, the car was driving away. Kate leaned against the wall, feeling dizzy. This happened 3 days ago? Why wasn't I told immediately? Because within an hour of the incident, the queen consort had spoken with the head of security and the senior household staff. She told them that Princess Charlotte had been taken to a private educational facility for special instruction and that the matter was to be kept confidential for security reasons. Special instruction? What kind of special instruction requires removing a child from her home without telling her parents? Harrison shook his head grimly. That's what I've been trying to figure out, Your Royal Highness. I've made some discreet inquiries, and no one seems to know exactly where Princess Charlotte has been taken or when she'll be returned. Kate felt tears forming in her eyes, but she forced herself to stay focused. There must be more. What else do you know? The queen consort has been making frequent phone calls over the past 3 days. The palace switchboard operators have been instructed not to log these calls in the usual manner. And yesterday, I overheard her speaking with someone about ensuring the princess understands the consequences of defiance. Consequences of defiance? Charlotte is 8 years old. What could she possibly have done that would warrant this kind of treatment? Harrison looked uncomfortable. Your Royal Highness, there have been rumors, discussions among the staff about tensions between you and the queen consort regarding the children's upbringing and their future roles in the monarchy. Kate knew exactly what he was referring to. Over the past year, there had been increasing friction between her and Camilla about how the children should be raised. Camilla had strong opinions about traditional royal protocol and had frequently criticized Kate's more modern approach to parenting. The disagreements had become more heated recently, particularly regarding Charlotte's education and her public appearances. But surely she wouldn't use my daughter to make a point about parenting philosophies, Kate said, though even as she spoke, she felt a growing certainty that this was exactly what was happening. There's something else, Harrison said reluctantly. The day before Princess Charlotte disappeared, there was an incident in the queen consort's private sitting room. One of the housemaids heard raised voices. The queen consort was speaking with someone on the phone about teaching lessons and making sure certain people understand their position in the hierarchy. Kate felt a chill run down her spine. Did the maid hear anything else? She heard the queen consort say something about the whale's children need to learn respect for their elders, and sometimes drastic measures are necessary to ensure proper behavior. The pieces were starting to come together in Kate's mind, forming a picture that was both terrifying and infuriating. You think Camilla has taken Charlotte to some kind of punishment facility? I think the queen consort has arranged for Princess Charlotte to be placed somewhere where she can be influenced regarding proper royal behavior and family loyalty. Kate closed her eyes, trying to process the magnitude of what she was hearing. This is kidnapping. This is child abuse. I don't care what title she holds. She has no right to take my daughter anywhere without my permission. Your Royal Highness, you must be very careful how you proceed. The queen consort has significant influence, and she's clearly planned this carefully. If you make accusations without solid proof, it could backfire severely. Kate opened her eyes, and Harrison could see a steely determination there that he had never seen before. Then, we need to get solid proof. I need you to help me find out exactly where Charlotte has been taken and why. That could be very dangerous for both of us, Harrison warned. If the Queen Consort discovers that we're investigating her actions, I don't care about the danger, Kate said firmly. Charlotte is my daughter, and I will move heaven and earth to bring her home safely. Will you help me? Harrison looked at her for a long moment, clearly wrestling with his duty to the crown versus his moral obligation to protect an innocent child. Finally, he nodded slowly. I'll help you, Your Royal Highness. But we need to be extremely careful. The Queen Consort has eyes and ears everywhere in this palace. Kate felt a surge of gratitude mixed with determination. What do we do first? First, we need to track down that black car. I have contacts in the security office who might be able to help us identify the vehicle and where it went. But we'll need to be discreet about our inquiries. What about the gardener who witnessed the incident? Can we speak with him directly? We can try, but we'll need to approach him carefully. If word gets back to the Queen Consort that we're asking questions, she might move Princess Charlotte to a different location or take other steps to cover her tracks. Kate nodded, her mind racing with possibilities and plans. I also want to review the phone records you mentioned. There has to be some trail we can follow. The phone records will be more difficult to access without raising suspicions, but I might know someone who can help us with that as well. As they prepared to leave their hiding place, Kate grabbed Harrison's arm. Sergeant, I need you to understand something. If we discover that Camilla has harmed my daughter in any way, I will not hesitate to take this to the highest levels, even if it means exposing the entire royal family to scandal. Harrison nodded solemnly. I understand, Your Royal Highness. And, for what it's worth, I believe you're doing the right thing. No child should be subjected to this kind of treatment, regardless of their position in the royal hierarchy. As they emerged from the alcove, Kate felt a renewed sense of purpose. The next 24 hours would be crucial in determining Charlotte's fate, and she was prepared to risk everything to bring her daughter home safely. The game between her and the Queen Consort was just beginning, and Kate intended to win at any cost. The following morning, Kate woke before dawn, her mind already racing with plans for the day ahead. She had barely slept, haunted by images of Charlotte frightened and alone in some unknown location. Every hour that passed felt like an eternity, and she knew that time was working against them. She met Harrison in the palace library at 6 in the morning, a location they had chosen because it was rarely used at that early hour and had multiple exits in case they needed to leave quickly. Harrison arrived carrying a manila folder and wearing the same grim expression from the day before. I've been making inquiries, he said without preamble. The black car was tracked leaving the palace grounds at approximately 2:30 p.m. on the day Princess Charlotte disappeared. The vehicle was captured on several traffic cameras as it traveled north through London. Kate felt her heart skip a beat. Where was it headed? Based on the camera footage, the car took the M25 and then turned north toward Hertfordshire. My contact in the security office was able to trace it to a private estate called Thornfield Manor, about 40 miles outside of London. Thornfield Manor? I've never heard of it. Harrison opened his folder and pulled out several printed pages. That's because it's very exclusive and very secretive. Thornfield Manor markets itself as a character development facility for privileged youth. It's essentially a reform school for wealthy families who want to send their children somewhere to be corrected. Kate felt sick to her stomach. You're telling me that Camilla sent my 8-year-old daughter to a reform school? It appears that way, Your Royal Highness. The facility specializes in what they call traditional values education and respect conditioning. According to their website, they work with families to address issues of defiance, disrespect, and inappropriate behavior in children from prominent families. Kate stared at the documents in disbelief. This is insane. Charlotte hasn't done anything that would warrant this kind of treatment. She's a normal, happy child who sometimes asks questions and expresses her own opinions. Which may be exactly the problem. From the Queen Consort's perspective, Harrison said quietly. I spoke with Mrs. Peterson in the household staff office yesterday evening. She's been with the royal family for 20 years and has observed the tensions between you and the Queen Consort regarding the children. What did Mrs. Peterson tell you? She said that the Queen Consort has been increasingly frustrated with what she perceives as Princess Charlotte's willful behavior and your permissive parenting style. Apparently, there was a particular incident last month that may have triggered this drastic action. Kate searched her memory. What incident? Do you remember the state dinner with the ambassadors from the Commonwealth countries? Princess Charlotte was supposed to make a brief appearance to greet the guests. Kate nodded slowly. Yes, she was supposed to say hello and, then, return to her room for bedtime. According to Mrs. Peterson, Princess Charlotte asked several pointed questions about why some of the ambassadors' children weren't invited to the dinner, and whether it was fair that only adults got to participate in important conversations about countries that would affect her future as well. Kate felt a mix of pride and horror. Those are perfectly reasonable questions for an intelligent child to ask. The Queen Consort apparently didn't see it that way. Mrs. Peterson overheard her telling someone that Princess Charlotte was becoming too questioning and insufficiently deferential to authority. She was particularly upset that the child had questioned royal protocol in front of foreign dignitaries. So she decided to have my daughter kidnapped and sent to a reform school. Harrison nodded grimly. It appears that the Queen Consort contacted Thornfield Manor that very evening. Mrs. Peterson remembers seeing her making several long phone calls after the dinner, and she was overheard saying things like immediate intervention and corrective measures. Kate stood up and began pacing around the library, her anger building with each step. This is beyond unacceptable. I don't care what her title is or what authority she thinks she has. She has no right to make decisions about my children without consulting me. There's more, Your Royal Highness. I was able to speak with the gardener, Mr. Thompson, late yesterday evening. He provided additional details about the day Princess Charlotte disappeared. Kate stopped pacing and turned to face Harrison. What did he tell you? Mr. Thompson said that the conversation between the Queen Consort and Princess Charlotte was more intense than he initially described. He was able to hear more of what was said because he was working closer to them than he first admitted. What exactly did he hear? Harrison consulted his notes. According to Mr. Thompson, the Queen Consort told Princess Charlotte that she was becoming a problem child who was embarrassing the royal family with her behavior. She said that Princess Charlotte needed to learn proper respect for her elders, and that questioning royal protocol was unacceptable. Kate felt her hands clenching into fists. How did Charlotte respond? Princess Charlotte apparently told the Queen Consort that her mother had taught her it was important to ask questions and think for herself. She said she didn't understand why wanting to learn and understand things was considered bad behavior. Good for her, Kate said fiercely. I'm proud that she stood up for herself. The Queen Consort didn't share your sentiment. Mr. Thompson said she became very angry and told Princess Charlotte that her mother had been filling her head with inappropriate ideas and that immediate action was needed to correct these harmful influences. Kate felt tears of rage forming in her eyes. She blamed me for Charlotte's natural curiosity and intelligence. It gets worse. The Queen Consort told Princess Charlotte that she was going to be taken to a special school where she would learn proper behavior and respect for authority. When Princess Charlotte said she didn't want to go and asked to speak with you first, the Queen Consort told her that you had already agreed to the arrangement. She told Charlotte that I had agreed to send her away? Kate's voice was barely controlled. Yes, and when Princess Charlotte became upset and said that couldn't be true because you would never send her away, the Queen Consort told her that sometimes parents have to make difficult decisions for their children's own good. Kate sank back into her chair, overwhelmed by the cruelty of what had been done to her daughter. Charlotte must think I abandoned her. She must be so confused and frightened. Harrison's expression softened. Which is why we need to get her back as soon as possible. Every day she spends at that facility, believing that you sent her there, is causing psychological damage. Kate wiped her eyes and forced herself to focus. What do we know about Thornfield Manor? How do we get her out of there? I've done some research on the facility. It's run by a woman named Dr. Victoria Ashworth, who has a background in child psychology and what she calls behavioral modification therapy. The facility is completely isolated. No outside communication is allowed for the first 2 weeks of a child's stay. 2 weeks. Charlotte has been there for 4 days already. We can't wait another 10 days to contact her. Dr. Ashworth's methods are controversial, even among child psychology professionals. She believes in what she calls complete environmental control to break down what she perceives as defiant behavior patterns. Kate felt sick again. What does that mean exactly? According to former employees who have spoken out about the facility, children are subjected to strict schedules, limited communication, and what amounts to psychological pressure to conform to whatever behavioral standards their families have requested. This sounds like child abuse. Many child welfare advocates would agree with you. There have been several investigations into Thornfield Manor over the years, but the facility has powerful connections and has managed to avoid serious legal consequences. Kate stood up again, her determination hardening. We're going to Thornfield Manor today. I'm going to get my daughter and bring her home. Harrison looked concerned. Your Royal Highness, we need to be strategic about this. If you simply show up there demanding Charlotte's release, Dr. Ashworth will contact the Queen Consort immediately. We need to approach this more carefully. What do you suggest? I think we should contact the facility and arrange for a visit. We can say that you're there for a routine check on Princess Charlotte's progress. Once we're inside and can confirm that she's there and safe, we can decide on the best way to proceed. Kate nodded slowly. That makes sense. But what if they refuse to allow the visit? Then we'll know that something is seriously wrong, and we can take more direct action. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. Harrison pulled out his phone. I'll call the facility now and request an appointment for this afternoon. I'll say that you want to check on Princess Charlotte's adjustment to the program. As Harrison made the call, Kate listened anxiously to his side of the conversation. She could hear a woman's voice on the other end, but couldn't make out the words. The conversation seemed to go on forever, with Harrison asking several questions and apparently receiving detailed responses. Finally, he hung up and turned to Kate with a troubled expression. Well, Kate asked urgently, Dr. Ashworth has agreed to meet with you at 3 p.m. today. However, she made it very clear that the visit will be brief and that Princess Charlotte will not be allowed to have private time with you. She said that personal visits during the initial adjustment period can be disruptive to the therapeutic process. Kate felt her anger flaring again. Therapeutic process? Charlotte doesn't need therapy. She needs her mother. There's something else, Your Royal Highness. Dr. Ashworth mentioned that she has specific instructions from the Queen Consort about Princess Charlotte's treatment program. She indicated that these instructions are quite detailed and that she's been told to expect resistance from family members who don't understand the necessity of the intervention. Resistance from family members? Does she mean me? It certainly sounds that way. Dr. Ashworth seemed to have been briefed about potential opposition to the program from what she called permissive family influences. Kate shook her head in disbelief. Camilla has thought of everything, hasn't she? She's painted me as the problem parent who can't be trusted to make decisions about my own child's welfare. It appears that way. But the good news is that we now have confirmation that Princess Charlotte is at Thornfield Manor, and we have an appointment to see her this afternoon. Kate looked at her watch. It was now 7:30 a.m., which meant they had several hours to prepare for the visit. What should I expect when we get there? Based on my research, Thornfield Manor operates like a cross between a boarding school and a psychological treatment center. The children live in dormitory-style rooms, follow strict daily schedules, and participate in individual and group sessions designed to modify their behavior. What kind of behavior modification? Harrison consulted his notes again. According to the facility's literature, they use a combination of reward and consequence systems to encourage compliance with authority figures. Children who demonstrate appropriate behavior receive privileges, while those who continue to show defiance face increasingly restrictive conditions. Kate felt her maternal instincts raging. They're essentially training children like animals. The facility would argue that they're helping children develop self-discipline and respect for authority. But you're right that their methods are questionable. What about Charlotte specifically? Do we know anything about how she's been doing there? Dr. Ashworth was very careful not to provide specific details over the phone. She did say that Princess Charlotte has been challenging and that she's still in the initial assessment phase of her treatment. Kate's heart ached for her daughter. Charlotte must be terrified and confused. She's never been away from home for more than a few days, and never under circumstances like these, which is why today's visit is so crucial. We need to see for ourselves how she's being treated and assess her mental and physical condition. Kate nodded, her resolve strengthening. And if I determine that she's being mistreated in any way, I'm bringing her home immediately, regardless of whatever authority Camilla thinks she has. Harrison looked at her seriously. Your Royal Highness, I need you to be prepared for the possibility that this visit won't go according to plan. If Dr. Ashworth has been instructed by the Queen Consort to prevent you from removing Princess Charlotte, this could become a very difficult situation. Are you saying I might not be able to take my own daughter home? I'm saying that we need to be prepared for all possibilities. The Queen Consort clearly has significant influence over Dr. Ashworth and the facility. If she's determined to keep Princess Charlotte there for a specific period of time, she may have put legal or financial pressure on the facility to prevent early release. Kate's mind was already working through contingency plans. Then, we need to have backup options ready. If they won't release Charlotte voluntarily, what other choices do we have? Legal action would be one option, but that could take time and would certainly create a public scandal. Another option would be to involve higher authorities, perhaps the king himself. William would support me completely if he knew what was happening. But I'm not sure I want to put him in the position of having to choose between his wife and his stepmother. Harrison nodded thoughtfully. There's also the possibility of involving Child Protective Services. If we can document that Princess Charlotte is being held against her will and subjected to inappropriate treatment, we might be able to get official intervention. Kate considered this option. That would definitely create a scandal. But if it's necessary to protect Charlotte, I'm willing to face the consequences. They spent the next hour planning their approach for the afternoon visit. Harrison would accompany Kate to Thornfield Manor, officially as her security detail, but actually as a witness to whatever they discovered there. They agreed that Kate would try to remain calm and diplomatic during the visit, even if she was horrified by what she found, in order to avoid alerting Dr. Ashworth to their true intentions. As they prepared to leave the library, Kate turned to Harrison with a question that had been bothering her since the beginning of this ordeal. Sergeant Harrison, why are you willing to risk your career to help me? You could get into serious trouble if the Queen Consort discovers that you've been investigating her actions. Harrison paused for a moment, considering his answer. Your Royal Highness, I've served this family for 15 years. I've seen the children grow up, and I've watched how you and Prince William have tried to give them as normal a childhood as possible while preparing them for their future responsibilities. He continued, Princess Charlotte is a bright, curious, wonderful little girl who deserves to be protected, not punished for having an active mind. What the Queen Consort has done is wrong, and I can't stand by and let it continue. Kate felt tears forming in her eyes again, but this time they were tears of gratitude. Thank you. I can't tell you how much it means to know that I'm not alone in this fight. You're not alone, Your Royal Highness. There are others in the palace who are also concerned about what's happening. If this situation escalates, you'll have more support than you might expect. As they left the library to prepare for their journey to Thornfield Manor, Kate felt a mixture of determination and dread. In a few hours, she would see Charlotte for the first time in 4 days and would finally have answers about what her daughter had been subjected to. Whatever she discovered, she was prepared to do whatever it took to bring Charlotte home safely and to make sure that nothing like this ever happened again.